conversations about modern SpongeBob are absolutely dominated by the worst of the worst, but do these episodes actually represent the average modern SpongeBob experience? Instead of focusing on garbage, let's take a look at what I think is a decent modern SpongeBob episode and examine its strengths and flaws. Ending off with a comparison to a classic episode to answer the question of what makes a SpongeBob episode truly great.
Chapter 1. A new Plankton adventure. The episode we will be taking a look at is Season 14's Tango Tangle. This is a Plankton-focused episode, which are usually, no pun intended, formulaic. Plankton episodes usually revolve around Plankton using some kind of new scheme to steal the Krabby Patty formula, only to have the scheme blow up in his face. However, this episode doesn't mention the formula at all. Plankton's want in this episode has nothing to do with the formula. He just wants to dance with his wife. The premise of the episode revolves around how, due to Plankton's size, he always gets stepped on when him and Karen attend dance lessons. This being the premise gives Plankton a reason to want to succeed as well as Karen. Not only is Plankton trying to do something good for his wife, but he also wants to overcome something that is likely an insecurity of his. Plankton's solution to this problem is to create a device that stretches his legs. When the episode showed the contraption, I braced myself for some modern SpongeBob gross out, but the scene thankfully did not go in that direction. While Plankton's leg lengthening machine does stretch out his legs, it really doesn't look too disturbing, and most of the shots during this sequence are of Plankton's face rather than his legs. Highlighting Plankton's face was a good choice for this scene, as it shows the audience the pain he had to go through in order to lengthen his legs and dance. This sets a strong foundation for the episode, since when Plankton is in the dance class, we know how much he went through in order to be there, and it makes us root for him. We then are introduced to the dance class and some familiar faces. SpongeBob is also present in the class with Pearl, since, as SpongeBob mentioned, Mr. Krabs made him take the class with her. A simple yet effective way to put these two characters here without directly shipping them. I think SpongeBob is here mostly because I'm pretty sure SpongeBob appears in every episode of the show, even if he isn't the star of a particular episode. The other dance class students are that weird assistant guy from Squidferatu and a girl version of him. I found Slappy quite annoying in Squidferatu, but honestly, he's not such a bad addition here. It's actually pretty believable that this character archetype would be interested in a Tango class. I do think Slappy's partner could have had a more unique design. I'm not the biggest fan of the Milhouse's Parents cartoon trope where the romantic partner is just a girl version of the guy. Then we get introduced to the instructor. Now, when this character first showed up, I thought she was gonna ruin the episode for me. She's a bit over-exaggerated, and I thought she was gonna get annoying fast. Honestly though, I think the character worked. As instructor, she imparts a lot of the wisdom of the episode, which is a positive message about learning to move and be confident. So that's the episode setup. Plankton and Karen in a dance class, but now that they're there, what happens? Chapter 2. Plankton's Arc. The main theme of this episode is confidence. Plankton attempts to be the best in the class, and in order to do so, he must believe in himself and be confident. And also, he has to sabotage his fellow classmates, but like, come on, he's Plankton. He may be the star of the episode, but he's still a villain. I'm not sure if this is possibly a bad message, since Plankton gets to the top by taking down others rather than on his own merit, but I also think that the kids watching this episode know that Plankton is a bad guy and that his behavior is not to be taken too seriously. Beyond what you may think of that aspect of the episode, the theme of confidence rings true, especially in the face of Plankton's final foe, Bubble Bass, and his mom, who just looks like Bubble Bass in drag. Bubble Bass is the antagonist of the episode, and honestly, I think he's pretty well used here. Apparently, people aren't too thrilled with Bubble Bass's appearances in modern SpongeBob. So far, I don't mind him, but I haven't seen every Bubble Bass episode yet. Maybe that can be a subject for a future video. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd want to see. Anyway, Bubble Bass works great as a villain to Plankton for a few reasons. First off, he's not Mr. Krabs, so the conflict stays focused on the dance class rather than becoming about the formula. Secondly, Bubble Bass's larger stature makes him a great physical foil to Plankton. And third, Bubble Bass is an incredibly confident character. Even though he's this kinda weirdo nerd archetype, he's the kinda guy who is loud and proud about who he is, which is exactly the kind of thing that Plankton aspires to be in this episode. Plankton's initial defeat at the hands, or should I say feet, of Bubble Bass make Plankton pull out his secret weapon. A ray, which is a ray that makes him turn into a guy named Ray, who is really cool and confident. It's a pretty clever joke. Kinda reminds me of the innator stuff from Phineas and Ferb. At first, I thought the ray was a little bit of a cop-out, since Plankton didn't really earn being cool, he just used a gadget. But then I realized that Plankton did build the ray, so that technically does mean that he earned his confidence. I also like that Karen is the one who uses the ray on Plankton, further reinforcing that Karen is the driving force behind Plankton's desire to be confident. Plankton becomes confident, becomes the top of the class, dances too hard that his legs go back to normal, which reverts the status quo, but is acknowledged to have succeeded in his goal. And for one last joke, the ray accidentally goes off and turns everyone into Ray. Solid cartoon episode. Oh yeah, there's also a my leg joke. After Plankton's legs go back to normal, Fred bursts in and says, "my leg," and then goes, "that's my line." In a vacuum, this joke is funny, but it does contribute to a larger pattern of running the my leg joke into the ground and robbing it of the subtlety that made it so iconic in the first place. But that's a subject for another video. Oh wait, I already made that video. Link in the description. Chapter 3, The State of Modern SpongeBob. So that's Tango Tangle. While I did really enjoy this episode, I still have to acknowledge the obvious. It's nowhere near the quality of the first 3 seasons. I'm trying to figure out what this episode lacked that early episodes had, and I think I've figured out a few things. The most major thing I would like to address is the humor itself. None of the jokes in Tango Tangle outright annoyed me, but not all of them made me laugh. Compare this to early SpongeBob, which could just be a comedy machine sometimes, with joke after joke and laugh line after laugh line. I know these sorts of comic scenes are definitely possible, but they would take a lot of work fine-tuning each individual scene. If I had to guess, an episode like Tango Tangle went through fewer drafts than a season 1 through 3 episode, and those drafts make a difference. I would like to compare this episode to another early SpongeBob episode that I think has some similarities, Artist Unknown. Now, the plots of these episodes aren't entirely identical, but there are some similarities. Both episodes focus on a morally skewed character with desire centered around self-worth. Both episodes revolve around being skilled at a recreational activity and feeling like you aren't as good at that activity as you want to be. And both episodes include a caricature of an expert in that particular recreational activity. The reason Artist Unknown is an exceptional episode while Tango Tangle is only a good episode lies in how each episode approached these aspects of their story. Squidward in Artist Unknown is outwardly confident, but we as the audience know he is not as good of an artist as he claims. This adds subtext and nuance to the scenes where he fails as an artist. Plankton's outward attitude towards wanting to be the best dancer aligns with his inward attitude. He's not holding anything back or hiding anything the way Squidward does in Artist Unknown. Their respective recreational activities are also treated slightly differently. In Artist Unknown, the art class is merely a backdrop to the actual conflict between Squidward and SpongeBob. While Tango Tangle is similar in the sense that the dance class is used as a backdrop to Plankton's self-confidence arc, the dance class is much more prominent to the point where it sometimes dominates the story. I can tell that Tango Tangle is a gimmick episode, something common in long-running shows where the writers go, what if we had X character do X thing? And I can tell this by how much they are showing off the dancing element. Now, gimmick episodes can be good, and this one certainly is, but it is noticeable that that is what it is trying to be. Lastly, I'd like to compare Susie Groove, the dance instructor, to Monty P. Moneybags, the art collector. Now, these characters are really similar, both being over-the-top pretentious experts in a given field. But I think that Moneybags has a little edge over Groove just because he plays off of Squidward a little better than Groove plays off of Plankton. The way that Moneybags just totally shuts down Squidward and completely tears down his ego is just legendary.
More like belongs in the trash. Ah!
These guys share only one scene together and they just work together perfectly. Susie Groove, on the other hand, doesn't really make such a good foil to Plankton. She gives him good advice, sure, but there isn't too much happening between them. And she doesn't get through to the core of Plankton's character the way that Monty P. Moneybags gets through to Squidward. All of these things I mentioned are what modern SpongeBob is truly lacking. It lacks a constant stream of humor, it lacks organic stories based around its characters first, and it lacks character motivations that are hidden beneath the surface. You can still make a good episode without these elements, but you can't make a great one. I think that it's just as important to discuss good but not great episodes of shows as it is to discuss absolutely awful episodes of shows. But I think the conversation on modern SpongeBob drifts too far into the awful episodes without acknowledging some of the good that can still come out of the series. Perhaps there are modern SpongeBob episodes that include the elements of storytelling present in the first 3 seasons. I haven't seen all of what the series has to offer just yet, and I would love to hear your recommendations below. Did you know I also cover the SpongeBob video games over on my gaming channel? I just put out a video on the Game Boy Advance port of Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, and all the ways that that game absolutely infuriated me. You should really check it out. If you like what I do and want to see me do more of it, consider becoming a channel member or supporting my Patreon. Link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.